Hey, what is up, guys? So it has been 2-3 days, I guess. So I think I'm ready to give my deep thoughts of the new Guilty Gear Special Soldier. And I know many of you guys have been thinking which one to buy, Soul Bad Guy, Kai Kisuke Mei, or Ram Little Valentine. So I am by no means a whale of a player, so I don't own any of the Soul Gears just yet, but I don't know, maybe my analysis will actually help you guys make a proper decision. Alright, so just a quick disclaimer before I start the video. What you are about to hear is just my opinion, so don't take it like, oh, it's a 100% accurate kind of thing. So I could be wrong sometimes. Just giving you my insight as a pretty experienced player. I've been playing the game for quite some time. So yeah, let's dive right into it. Alright, we'll start with Soul Bad Guy first. I don't have him maxed yet, so he's still at level 1 star. But we'll have a look at his Soul Gear for his third skill. So it increases his damage all the way to 199.6%. So that's almost 200%. Alright, so it's not that strong in terms of the skill modifiers. There are certain heroes with skills, third skill above 200%, but he does have 6,000 defense ignore when he's at level 10, so that can actually help. It makes his third skill a lot more stronger, and there's a 100% chance to disarm an opponent if he's at the cannot be healed mode, right? So which goes back to his passive skill for his Soul Gear. Alright, so if his HP falls below 50%, he enters cannot be healed status. So with that Soul Gear, he can have this passive activated when he has 80% of or less HP. Alright, so that actually it increases the chance of you being able to activate this cannot be healed thing. So while he is in cannot be healed status, he can do a lot of things. So he has 20% final skill power increased in all his skills. So imagine all his skills has 20% higher modifier. He has 20% counter damage, which I don't think is that impressive. His range is not that good, so yeah, not worrying about that too much. But I can foresee that some people will put outer space on him. 30% damage reduction. Alright, so when he is in cannot be healed mode, he usually has 30%, but if he has his Soul Gear maxed, the passive one, he has up to 40% damage reduction. So damage reduction is a lot, like 40%. Imagine that, for example, you are using Carrot, and Carrot deals about 100,000 damage to him, and 40% will reduce that to 60,000. Like, that's a lot of damage reduction. But the condition is he has to be in cannot be healed status. So it's kind of finicky, I guess. It's more of a, I believe it's more of a Battle of Honor thing. So we're gonna judge this based on 3 categories: Tower of Dawn Hell, Battle of Honor, and just regular World Conquest. Alright, so obviously he's usable in PvE, no doubt about that. In fact, all 4 of the Guilty Gear heroes are viable in PvE. But let's talk about PvP. So this guy is strong. Definitely, if you have the proper gears to build him, the proper equipments, you need to make him tanky though. You want to go for as high defense as possible, because he has to be below 80% for the entire cannot be healed status thing to activate. If he dies in a single hit, then you won't have that chance. And a revive set won't help as much, because even if he gets revived, his HP is extremely low. Like, you want him to slightly tank or at least last 2 to 3 turns. So not to mention that he has a pretty good awakening skill as well. Alright, so we won't cover too much about that, we're just covering the soul gear. So definitely I would say out of the 4, his soul gear is one of the best for Battle of Honor. Alright, if you're just looking to really get as high rank as possible, so he's one of the best characters or best heroes right now. Definitely, no doubt about it. Obviously, he's not perfect. There's still weaknesses. His range kind of limited, kind of. And yeah, so if you guys are thinking to get him for Battle of Honor, then that's the right reason, the right mindset to go for it. If you don't play BOH at all, you don't care about BOH, you are just you just play all the other modes of the game, guild raids, or I doubt he'll be useful in guild raid at all. Yeah, he won't be useful in guild raids. So don't worry about it, because once he enters his cannot be hooked status, he'll probably end up dying, getting killed by the guild raid bosses. Alright, so get him for Battle of Honor, only for Battle of Honor, only if you're interested there. I'm not sure about Tower of Dawn Hell though. He might be useful in certain stages. In fact, all 4 of them might, but other than that, he's more of a BOH hero. Alright, let's dive into Kai Kisuke. I'm still at level 1. Alright, so first we will analyze Kai Kisuke's third skill, since I do not have it maxed. So his third skill, when you max it out, it deals 175.7% attack. And if the enemy is 3 or more tiles away, it increases, there's a final skill power, so it increases the skill to 228.41%. And there's a 4000 defense ignore if 3 or more tiles away. Alright, so if you have his soul gear, it increases the skill damage to 188.2%, and the decrease 1 tile for the number of tiles necessary for activation, basically as opposed to 3 tiles away. So now enemy who are 2 tiles away will increase his final skill power, and the defense ignore will activate. 4000 defense ignore, that's pretty good, that's a lot. Of course, Soul Bad Guys one has 6000 defense ignore, which is more, but since this guy is a range hero, he can snipe from pretty much anywhere on the map. So yeah, he's pretty versatile, good in all modes of the game. Alright, so let's have a look at his passive. So his passive is what makes him extremely strong. So without the soul gear, it has 20% attack and 10% crit damage for 1 turn if there's an enemy within 1 tile. Alright, so an enemy needs to be within 1 tile. So yeah, so it increases crit damage and for another 10% if you have the soul gear, so up to 20%. So HP recovery, not that impressive, additional 6%. By default it increases total up to 20%. But here's the thing, if you want to use him for guild raid, he's definitely one of the best heroes right now because of his range on his third skill. I'm not sure if maybe if you build him with lots of mana equipments, those equipments that recover mana, he might be able to spam his third consistently. I'm not sure about that, have yet to test that out. But he is definitely one of the more versatile heroes compared to the other 4 in the list. Like if you compare him to Remnantal, Valentine or Soul Bad Guy, I would say he's the safer guy to go for if you are unsure of what mode you want to focus on the game. If you play Tower of Dawn Hell, if you play Battle of Honor, and you play guild raids a lot, he's the perfect guy to go for. So decrease 1 tile. So I do not like that he needs an enemy within a 1 tile range to have that additional how many percent of crit damage. So that can, I wouldn't say severely, but can sort of make him not as strong in guild raid, because if you place him far away, there usually won't be any enemies nearby him, especially within one tile. So we'll see about that. Obviously, it's still new, so I guess people are still developing strats for him, but I'm pretty sure that he should be usable in most of the days in Guild Raid. So yeah, he's the more, I would say, safer option to go for if you are looking to play, if you play all contents of the game. Definitely a much safer option than Soul Bad Guy. Alright, so let's have a look at Ramletal Valentine, and I'll save May for last because I know lots of people are wondering if her soul gear is worth it. Alright, so Ramletal Valentine. So her third skill, right now it's 181.5%. If you have the soul gear, it increases it to 186, or rather 187%. Let's just round it up, 186.9, and increase defense ignore by another 1000. Alright, so this is for her third skill. Right, so let's be honest here. Let's just be honest. Look at the requirements. If there are 3 or more enemies in the skills range, their defense is ignored by 4000. Alright, so if you have the soul gear, it increased to 5000. But if you are using her in Battle of Honor, what are the odds of you having at least 3 enemies in your range? Come on, like the chances of that happening is pretty low. Maybe in small maps like square map and stuff like that, but even then it doesn't make sense to purchase this soul gear just for that. Like, the skill damage is rather low, it's 5.4% increase. Like, come on. Alright, so there's a weakening effect applied. Obviously they receive damage by 30% for 2 turns, but you know, the soul gear doesn't improve on that. So you are just getting an additional 1000 defense ignore and 5.4%. It feels like it's not worth it if you ask me. So Tower of Dawnhell, alright, maybe she could be used there. That's a more likely scenario. But in Battle of Honor, to get 3 or more enemies in the skills range, I can see that it will seldom happen, or almost it won't happen at all. I mean, it depends on your setup, right? Like, what kind of setup are you doing? Unless you are doing like a Gold Tiger outer space kind of build with her, and she's the last one standing most of the time, then maybe occasionally that might happen, but the odds of that happening are kind of low. I don't think it's worth getting the soul gear just for that. But let's have a look at the passive skill before we mention more. Alright, so her crit damage increased by 5% every time, and it caps out at 24%. So if you have the soul gear, the crit damage is increases by 8%, additional 3%. So it still caps out at 24%. I don't really see that being a good thing because, to be honest, I mean, she's one of the best. I would say if you are using Ramletal Valentine, most of the time you are using her in Guild Raid, for sure, because of her first skill. She can have up to 5 or more tiles away, and she can have insane range on her first skill. But just by having additional 3%, you still caps out at 24%, so it's not worth getting. You just need a few additional turns to succeed in the cooperation attack, right? Of having the soul gear, you want her to be stronger in Guild Raid, but it doesn't. The cap is still there, 24%. So the number of allies needed for activation is decreased by 1. Alright, that's kind of good, but it doesn't really help her that much as well in Guild Raid, because most of the time you would have proper long range heroes to co-op with her. Like, in most scenarios you would have 2 allies minimum. Like, if you only have 1 ally, it doesn't help her much in Guild Raid, and she's more of a Guild Raid hero, I would say, for sure, because of her first skill, like I mentioned earlier. But if you are using her for Battle of Honor, I still don't think it's worth getting. Just to be honest, I don't think you build her tanky enough to last that long for her to cap up to that 24% crit damage. Like, most of the time she might actually die in 1 or 2 turns. So 5% and additional 3%, 8%, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So you might want to consider on that if you're getting her soul gear for Battle of Honor. I don't think it's a wise choice, but number of allies for activation, alright, that one I could agree that it could be useful in Battle of Honor. So it's useful to counter the counter heroes, right? You want to stay out of range of heroes like Nox so that he won't be able to counter you. Other than that, I don't know, I don't think her soul gear is worth it unless you really plan to use her in Battle of Honor. But even then, like I say, her third skill, definitely the chance of you having 3 characters in front of you in that straight line, I would say the odds are rather low. And most of the time, unless you always place her like the first hero to go, but that 5.5%, that's too little. The skill modifier is just too low. It's just too low. Alright, let's check out on Mei, our last hero. Alright, I do have my Mei Awaken, so let's have a look at her. So her soul gear, it improves her second skill by additional 13.4%, so modifiers increase to 189.1%, and also receives 5% less damage. So additional 5%, which makes it 20% less damage for 2 turns. Alright, so if you are using Mei, generally, alright, whether you're using her for Battle of Honor, or Tower of Dawn Hell, or PvE, there's no way you're using Mei for her second skill, alright? You're using her because of her third skill. It has high modifier, 204.8%, and a very extremely high disarm chance. Alright, you are using her because she can disarm opponents. And also her awakening skill, which I believe activates in 1 turn or 2 turns. So if you are using Mei, generally you are using her for her third skill and her awakening skill. Like, you don't care about the second skill, right? Like, I mean, it does help a little bit by having decreased incoming damage by 5%, but why does it matter, you know? Like, why does it matter? If you are bringing in Mei as a tank, then you are doing it wrong. Like, you should be using her as someone that can disarm an opponent, not as a tank to help you tank up incoming damage. It might help her survive slightly, but you're better off investing in her set because her set provides 2000 defense. Alright, let's have a look at her aura, her passive skill. So look at this, increased skill damage by, oh no, this is her passive skill. Alright, 120.4%. So the soul gear increases it to 134.1%. Alright, which is cool. And movement reduction by 1 at level 10. So right now there's a decreased movement by 2 for 1 turn. If you have the soul gear, it helps it to decrease movement by 3 for 1 turn. Alright. So why the chances of you being able to decrease enemies' movement by 3 if you are at the top tier of Battle of Honor is extremely low. So here's the thing, unless you start out right beside an opponent, maybe you can screw up some strats. If the enemy is using Ghost Step, you can screw up some strats. But other than that, there's no way that you move close to them. When you move close to an opponent, alright, most of the time you want to disarm them. That's it. And if they are disarmed, you don't care if their movement is decreased or not. Like, why does it matter? They can't attack you, they can't do anything. Why does it matter if their movement is decreased by 2 or 3? And the additional 13% of increase in the passive skill, I don't think that will help her much. Like, you don't use her for a passive skill, like I mentioned, you are using her for her third skill. And in the next turn, most likely you'll be using her awakening skill, right? Like, it doesn't matter if she has a slightly stronger passive that can reduce additional 1 movement. Like, what the heck? So I don't think it's worth it. If you really think that you want to use her in Battle of Honor, what you should do is you should save that 1700 crystals, get her set instead. Her set is set package. Alright, so this is Mei's set. So it increased final skill power on nearby enemies by 15%, and increase attack by 60% and defense by 2000 for the first 3 turns in battle. Alright, even though it's only for the first 3 turns, 3 turns in the first 3 turns, 2000 increase in defense. That's much more worth it. Like, instead of getting that soul gear, you have to use your second skill to benefit from the decreased incoming damage by 20%. You might as well have the increased defense by 2000 for the first 3 turns, and that should help you survive. It should be sufficient enough. There's no need for you to get his soul gear, her soul gear, if you're using her for Battle of Honor. So even if Tower of Dawn, I bet that you're using her for her disarm skill. There's no way that you use her for her second skill, unless there are some occasional maps where you would want her to move across the map freely or easily without any difficulty, but that rarely happens, you know. And so I would conclude that Mei's soul gear is not worth it if you are focusing on Battle of Honor. It's just not worth it in general, I would say. The same goes for Ramatal Valentine. I strongly believe she is a guild raid hero, and most of the people would use her for guild raid because of her first skill range, and therefore the soul gear increases, it doesn't help much, you know, in terms of third skill, which she would rarely gets to use unless there's a unique strat on that. And the third skill activation, most likely in guild raid setup, you would have at least 2 allies to be able to co-op with her. So if you're not, then you're doing it wrong, I guess. So Soul Bad Guy, definitely much more worth it. Only if you play Battle of Honor and if you plan to use him in Battle of Honor. But else, there are plenty of rock heroes which are available right now or might be available in the future. I mean, yeah, he can get extremely tanky, but there's lots of heroes that can counter him. Zero is one of them. Zero can easily one-shot him with Pioneer set. So Kai Kiske, definitely, if you do guild raids a lot, then he's the one to go for. And in fact, he's the much more safer option. He should be able to give you much more benefits compared to the others. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the deeper analysis and thoughts of this. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with me, and you can leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a nice day. Goodbye.